unprecedented scenario which has not been displayed before in the whole day of Brahma, so to speak. For the very first time in the whole Kalpa, whole day of Brahma, this scenario has been visualized. So at that time, Rai Ramananda sees that from the right side of Sri Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes in the manifest Rasraj Sri Krishna, Bhir Lalit Nayak of Vrindavan, Nandanandan, Yashodanandan, Radhanath. And from the left hand portion of Srimati Radhika's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental medium-sized icon becomes manifest in Vrishmanu Nandini Srimati Radhika, the very embodiment of Madhanaksha Mahabhav, that proves that Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the combined form of both. So that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his most intimate associate is Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. Why? Because as Narottam Das Thakur explains in his Prema Bhakti Chandrika, Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamasyam Dadati Padantikam. When will that Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, based on his own sweet views, disposal and accord, will grant me the shelter of his lotus feet? I am always seeking and yearning after that and that destination. That Rupa Goswami, who has established the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this mortal world, and who has thus fulfilled the innermost desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu के मनोभीष्ट को पूरा किया। जगती तल पर इह भूमि तल पर, इह अवनी तल पर, इह वसुंधरा पर, इह मेदिनी पृथ्वी पर, इह भूर्लोक पर उन श्री गौर सुंदर महाप्रभु के निजाभीष्ट, उनके मनोभीष्ट, उनका जो आंतरिक हार्द है, उस आंतरिक हार्द से अवगत होकर, पूर्णतया परिज्ञात होकर, फलतः परिणामतः जिन्होंने उन श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु की आंतरिक मनोकामना को पूर्ण करने के लिए जिस मिशन की स्थापना की है, जिस कार्य को उन्होंने पूरा किया है, चैतन्य महाप्रभु की अंतरतम इच्छा को जिन्होंने पूरा किया है, आंतरिक जो मनोभीष्ट है उसको पूरा किया है, दैट्स महाप्रभु has fulfilled the innermost desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what is the innermost desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? That is, Rupa Goswami explains himself in Virat Madhav Natak. अनर्पित चरीम चिरात करुणयावतीर्णः कलौ समर्पयितुमन्नतोज्ज्वल रसां विष्णुभक्ति श्रियं हरिः पुरत सुंदरं स्थितिकदम्ब संदीपितः सदा हृदय तंदरे स्फुरतुः शक्तिमन्तरः. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has manifested himself after a prolonged time lapse, and that is only once in one day of Brahma. That means after trillions of years he has again become manifest. So anarpita charim chirat karunayavatiraha kalau, and prompted, instigated, stimulated by his own desire, compassionate desire, full of benevolence and grace, full of benevolence, audarya, karuna and grace, mahavadanyata, he has now become manifest. And now, after becoming manifest, what ambition he is going to fulfill, what great task he is going to fulfill or accomplish, that great task that he is going to execute is going to distribute freely, without considering eligibility, ineligibility, without considering the proper satpatra or kupatra. For the act of donation, charity, always who is eligible, who is non-eligible, that has to be considered. The Dharma Shastras have given injunction that if daन or charity is given to kupatra, then it doesn't gain any result. The data, the donor doesn't accrue any benefit from that if the dawn is given to kupatra or ineligible. So satpatra kupatra, that rational thinking always has to be there, that rational discrimination. And then what is the proper time and place to give that donation, satkal and the satsthan, that also has to be considered. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has freely distributed this Krishna Prem to anyone and everyone. Therefore it is said in Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam that patra vichara nahi sthana sthan jai jaha payat taha kare premadan lutiya khaiya diya bhandar ujade ashcharya bhandar prema shata gune bade. That Krishna Prem which Sri Krishna becomes very reserved to give, which Sri Krishna becomes very hesitant, he doesn't give. He gives sense gratification, bhukti very easily. He gives liberations of the 5 types very easily. But Krishna Prem he doesn't give. Because once he gives Krishna Prem, that Swarat Shri Krishna, that fully independent Shri Krishna has to become paradhin, has to become subordinate to his devotees, losing his so-called independence and apostrophe and sovereignty. Therefore Krishna declares to Durvasa, 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hya Swatantra Vadveja Sadhu Vir Krishna Hridayo Bhakta Jana Priyaha. I am completely dependent on my devotees. Paradhin means I have completely lost my so-called independent, autocratic, sovereign status of being the Akhil Koti Brahmanda Nayak. And Aham Bhakta Paradhino. And there also he says that Anuvrajami Ham Nityam Pujayet Yangri Redu in 11th canto 2. Now he says that I always follow behind my devotees, and when my devotees step ahead, at that time I gradually kneel down, bend down, and then I take the foot dust from the imprint of that devotee's lotus feet, and then I smear it on my lotus face and cheeks. So, Anuvrajami Ham Nityam. Therefore, Krishna becomes completely subordinate. That Shri Krishna who is Parak, he becomes Paradhi. And therefore, why? Because of the manifestation of Krishna Prem within the heart of devotee. Krishna Prem or Prema Bhakti. That Prema Bhakti, because she is none other than the Ahladini Shakti or the internal potency of Krishna, therefore she attracts Sri Krishna. Prema Bhakti is a condensed transformation of Ahladini Shakti, Srimati Radhika. And because Prema Bhakti is none other than transformation of internal potency of Krishna, therefore she attracts Shri Krishna, just like Srimati Radhika being called Madan Mohan Mohini attracts Madan Mohan Shri Krishna. So Krishna Prema or Prema Bhakti likewise, because it is also one form of Ahladini Shakti, it also has the power to completely activate Shri Krishna. Therefore Padma Puran says Bhakti Sutropanaddaha, Shri Krishna becomes completely bound by the ropes of Prema Bhakti. And likewise many statements in the Shastras are made. No need to go in depth in regards to this topic. There are many proofs in the Shastras, many evidences that can be seen. So the conclusion is that therefore Rupa Goswami says that the two special characteristics of Prema Bhakti are Shri Krishna Karshini and Sandrananda Visheshatma. These two characteristics are not present in Bhava Bhakti or even in Sadhan Bhakti. They are only present in Prema Bhakti, as Jiva Goswami clarifies in his Durgam Sakamini commentary on that verse of Kirtamrita Sindhu. Krishna Karshini and Sandrananda Visheshatma, these two attributes are only existing within the Prema Bhakti, and therefore, because Prema Bhakti is Krishna Karshini, it attracts Krishna just like a magnet attracts its counterpart, no matter how distant the counterpart is. Prema Bhakti attracts Shri Krishna, who is in Golok Vrindavan, to come and to rest within the heart of his devotee, and he has to leave the seat of Vaikuntha and he has to reside within the heart of his devotee. Naham vasami Vaikunthe yoginam hridayesho man bhaktaya pradayanti tat pratishthan narada. The Puranas have declared, Shri Krishna declares in the Puran that I do not reside in the Vaikuntha, I rather reside within the heart of my devotee, just for that reason. Sadhava hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam soham. Again to Durvasa he says in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam, I live within the heart of my devotee. So, therefore, because Prema Bhakti attracts and binds Shri Krishna. Now, that Prema Bhakti Shri Krishna doesn't want to give so easily to anyone and everyone. Therefore, Narada tells Yudhishthira, 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Astveva Manga Bhagavan Bharitam Mukrondo Muktin Dadati Karhichit Sma Na Bhakti Yogam. Quoted again in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. That and commented by Jiva Goswami in his Durgam Saramuni commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So, what he says, Narad says to Yudhishthira, "O Yudhishthira, you are very fortunate to have this Prema Bhakti within your heart." Why? Because Shri Krishna doesn't become subordinate unless one receives Prema Bhakti, and he doesn't give Prema Bhakti, so that he doesn't have to become subordinate to anyone and everyone and lose his autocratic position of being Swara. And therefore, Krishna gives very easily to his worshippers Bhakti, self-certification, and Mukti, liberation, but he becomes very reserved and hesitant. And only when he is forced and compelled, then he becomes bound to give Krishna Prem, otherwise he doesn't give. Muktin dadat karchit mar bhakti yogam. Mukti he may give, but Prem Bhakti he never gives. That Prema Bhakti, Mahavadanya Avatar, most compassionate and benevolent incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives without considering the proper place, the improper place, the proper eligible candidate, the improper candidate, the proper time and the improper time, without considering all these factors of donation, charity. He gives the dawn of Krishna Prem. Satra Satra Vichar Nahi Nahi Sthana Sthan Jai Jaha Pai Taha Kare Premadan. Whoever was found in whichever condition, whichever place, was given the the non-comparable treasure and them of Krishna Prem without any consideration. Lutiya khaiya diya bhandar ujade आश्चर्य bhandar prema shatamone bade. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with all his four other associates, Panch Tattva, they have plundered the treasure house of Krishna Prem. They have forcibly, like the pirates and like the hooligans, they have looted and literally plundered the treasure house of Krishna Prem by breaking the seal and the lock which was found on the doorway to the treasure house. And what they have done, they have distributed it freely. And the most astonishing aspect is, the more the Krishna Prem is taken out from the treasure house and distributed, that Krishna Prem, each time it is taken out, handful or mouthful from the treasury, within the treasury, Krishna Prem, the amount of Krishna Prem which is taken out, which is deducted, which is subtracted from the original treasure house, what happens? 100 times more the amount which is taken out becomes present within the treasure house each time it is taken out. Ascharya bhandar prema shatabona bhava. So the treasure house of Krishna Prem, instead of becoming lessened and instead of Krishna Prem becoming decreased and lessened within the treasure house, it becomes rather 100 times expansive. So this Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his innermost desire is to distribute Krishna Prem. But what type of Krishna Prem? Sava Bhakti Shriyam Anarpita Charim Chirat Karunayavati Kalau Samarpayitum Annapojvala Rasam. In order to perfectly give Samarpayitum Samyak Rupal Samyak Prakarena Arpayitum Iti Samarpayitum. To give perfectly and completely, not partial donation, total, full donation. To give something completely and perfectly without any fault or flaw. That is known as Samyak Prakarena Arpayitum, Samarpayitum. That is known as Samarpayitum. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here to give the perfect form of Krishna Prem. That is not the Krishna Prem on the level of Sakhya, Dasya, Vatsalya and Sham. That is not the Krishna Prem found within the other spiritual planets like Vaikuntha, Ayodhya, Mathura or Dwarka. That is the Krishna Prem found within Vrindavan, and that also of a very special type, Parkiya Bhav, paramour love of the cowherd maidens, and that also of a very special type, Manjari Bhav, the affection and the love that the maid servants of Srimati Radhika, starting from Rupa Manjari and Rati Manjari, have within their hearts. That special type of affection for Radha and Krishna which the Manjaris possess, that Bhavollasrati, that Manjari Bhav, that Palyadasi Bhav, that Unnat Ujjwal Ras, very brilliant, Ujjwal, and very exalted, mellow. That Manjari Bhav, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to distribute, and because that is the innermost desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the innermost desire is to distribute that Manjari Bhav, and therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has partaken, he has participated in that task of distributing Manjari Bhav, Unnat Ujjwal Ras, and thus he has assisted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that task by writing unprecedented books on the science of devotional service like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjwal Nilmani, Vidagdha Madhav, Lalit Madhav, etc. and thus revealing the nature of Unnat Ujjwal Ras, the nature of Manjari Bhav and the nature of Madhanasya Mahabhava of Srimati Radhika through these books. Therefore, Rupa Goswami is the most intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mano Abhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale, because he fulfilled the innermost desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, Raghunath Das Goswami again praised to Rupa Goswami in his Mukta Charitra by saying, Adrana Srinandantai Yache Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padambhoya Dhulhisyam Janma Janmani. That by taking this blade or straw of grass in my mouth, I again repeatedly fall down on the ground and just yearn, just earnestly and eagerly long after this destination. And what is that destination? I want to be placed as an atomic particle, tiny subtle atomic particle, forming the aggregate foot dust found attached to the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami. I just want to become that single particle within that dust. Repeatedly again and again, that in life after life, birth after birth, I just want to become this, no more else. That is the desire of Raghunath Das. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur writes, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, Sei Mor Sampad, Sei Mor Bhajana Puja, Sei Mor Dharma Karma, Sei Mor Abharan, Sei Mor Jivan Eri Jivan. The lotus feet of Rupa Goswami are my everything. I do not aspire after anything else besides them. So, the most important point here is Rupa Goswami is one of the most intimate and foremost associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore all the acharyas, all the preceptors, all the spiritual masters who have come either before Rupa Goswami or after Rupa Goswami, all of them owe their allegiance to Rupa Goswami and they all consider themselves to be the followers of Rupa Goswami. Even Sanatan Goswami, who is the Diksha Guru, spiritual master of Rupa Goswami and elder brother, even he considers Rupa Goswami to be his Shiksha Guru. So therefore, all the acharyas in our Brahma Marga Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya are rather known as Rupanuga acharyas, being the staunch and steadfast followers of Rupa Goswami and preaching him. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, Nitya Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the very founder of our institution, he has written in his preface to the Upadeshamritam, the Nectar of Instruction of Rupa Goswami, and to the preface of that book, in the very first paragraph of the preface, His Divine Grace writes that the actual in charge of this Krishna consciousness movement is Sri Rupa Goswami. They all owe their allegiance back to Rupa Goswami because he is the most intimate associate of Mahaprabhu. So Rupa Goswami's speciality is that, yes. So we will end here, right? Okay. So the most important speciality of Sri Rupa Goswami, as disclosed and as revealed by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad in his Madhuri Kadambini, is that Bhakti purvaihi shritatam tu asampashved yadapsadihi tamnaumi satatam rupam nama priyadanam harehe. Although the concept of devotional service was present before, long before Sri Rupa Goswami's advent in this mortal world, but the speciality and the uniqueness of Sri Rupa Goswami's contribution to the path of devotional service is that he has revealed devotional service as rasatmika. The concept that devotional service is there and devotional service is the most auspicious path for the living entities, that concept was pre-existing. Even in Satya Yuga, even in Treta Yuga, even in Dwapar Yuga, and even in Kali Yuga, that concept was existing. Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbark, Ramanandacharya, Vallabhacharya, Shankaracharya, Nath Muni, Yamunacharya, Shukdev, all the 12 Mahajanas, and including the 4 founders of the 4 Sampradayas, Brahma, Shiv, Kumar and Lakshmi, all of them, they knew that devotional service is the best and the most auspicious path. But none of them were able to explain in any of their treatises, nowhere, including Srila Vyasadeva, how that devotional service becomes transformed into rasa. So Rupa Goswami, for the very first time in the history of the whole day of Brahma, has explained for the very first time in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, upon being inspired by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's grace and mercy, he has explained for the very first time how rati or affection or prem for Krishna within the heart of a devotee becomes transformed into rasa. So bhakti, the conception of bhakti was there, but how it becomes transformed into rasa was not explained by anyone. Therefore Vishwanath says, Rupa Goswami is the first one to explain, and therefore he is Adi Bhakti Rasa Prasthapanacharya. Here, now Shandilya didn't explain that in his Shandilya Bhakti Sutra, the disciple of Gargacharya, Shandilya Muni. And Narad Mahamuni also was not able to explain in his Naradya Bhakti Sutra, consisting of 84 aphorisms, how bhakti turns into rasa. And none of the other acharyas were able to explain. Rupa Goswami is the first one to explain the practical and theoretical ways how rati or Krishna prem becomes transformed into rasa by saying Premadi sthai bhava samagri milane Krishna bhakti rasa rupe paya pariname vibhava anubhava satvikam yabhichari sthai bhava rasa haya eichari mili. That Krishna prem becomes transformed into rasa. That sthai bhava, that sthai rati becomes transformed into rasa when it becomes mixed with other 4 constituent ingredients, which are vibhav, first anubhav, second sattvic, third and vyabhichari, fourth. When these 4, vibhav, anubhav, sattvic and vyabhichari, When these four become mixed with Sthai Bhava or Sthai Rati, then the Sthai Bhava or Sthai Rati becomes transformed into Ras. So Shant Rati, Dasya Rati, Sakhya Rati, Vatsalya Rati and Shringar Rati. They cannot be called Shant Ras, Dasya Ras, Sakhya Ras, Vatsalya Ras and Shringar Ras until and unless they become mixed with Vibhav, Anubhav, Sattvic and Vyavihari. And how that whole process occurs, the minutest detail of the whole process has been laid down by Srila Rupa Goswami for the very first time. That's why he is the first and original compiler of Bhakti Rasa Shastra, Rupa Goswami, and therefore he is known as Adi Bhakti Rasa Prasthapanacharya, the establisher and the original preceptor of the system of philosophy dealing with devotional service perceived as transcendental mallow, Bhakti Rasa Prasthapanacharya. And that Rupa Goswami has compiled Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the literal translation is, Sindhu means ocean or great reservoir of water where water is found in abundance. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is literally translated as the great reservoir of water, which is ocean, vast ocean of the nectarian ambrosian mellows of devotional service unto Krishna. Amrita means ambrosia or nectar. Sindhu means vast ocean. Rasa means the transcendental juicy mellows. And Bhakti means devotional service unto Krishna. So the ocean of the nectarian mellows of devotional service unto Krishna, that ocean is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and that ocean along with all its tiny nooks, corners, details and subtle intricacies of that ocean in its full-fledged form, in its most comprehensive aspect, has been revealed by Rupa Goswami, who is none other than Shri Rupa Manjari, the foremost and the leader of all the Manjaris, of all the maidservants of Srimati Radhika, in the eternal Leela of Shri Krishna and Radha, in the eternal pastimes of Vrindavan, and who has descended, assuming a male form, to assist Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Gaur Leela, Prakat Gaur Leela, manifest Gaur Leela. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu none other than Radha Krishna. That is why Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Radha Krishna nahi adi. Rupanuga Janera Jivana. And Sai Krishna, Sai Gaur, Sai Jagannath. That Krishna of Vrindavan who is the same as Jagannath, Daru Brahma. And that Jagannath, Daru Brahma is the same as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Rupa Goswami is his foremost associate, the author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and therefore Srila Prabhupada commands in his writings that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is actually the law book of Krishna consciousness movement, just like the bylaw or constitution, samvidhan of any particular nation or country governs that particular land or that particular nation. In the same way, because nectar of devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has been considered to be the law book or the constitution or the bylaws of devotional path, therefore Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is equally treated as the judicial bylaws governing the jurisdiction or the sphere or the plane or the realm of devotional service. Therefore, there is no better book than Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu if one wants to actually progress and discharge devotional service, and as a result of devotional service, especially of the Raganuga type, if one wants to enter into the Goloka Vrindavan, into the eternal pastimes of Radha and Govinda, occurring in all the 8 parts of the day, Ashtayama Leela, Ashtakalina Leela, then one has to scrutinizingly study this nectar of devotion, and only then any possibility of advancement, of progress, or of progress on this path can ever be reckoned of, can ever be thought of on the part of the practitioner of devotion, Bhakti Sadhak. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Any questions, comments, or inquiries? They were unable to explain the Anya Abhirashita. We just explained the glories of Rupa Goswami today. Okay. And Anya Abhirashita verse explanation will take at least 3 to 4 days. Because on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, 3 commentaries have been written in Sanskrit. one by Jiva Goswami, Durgam Sangamani Tika, another by Mukundas Goswami, the disciple of Krishnadas Kaviraj, Artharasnalpa Tika, and the last commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And then His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada has written his summary studies in English. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti has also written another book known as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, which is also a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami. And then there is Bhakti Sandarbha has been written by Jiva Goswami to elaborate on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So considering all these books, and especially Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the source of our discussion. So based on all these books, the in-depth explanation of Anyabhilasha Kashanyam could just take several days to complete. So we just today tried to become a little more acquainted with the glories of the author, because unless you understand the glories of the author, no question arises of understanding the glories of the compilation. Unless you understand the position of Arjuna and Krishna, the narrator and listener of Bhagavad Gita, we will be unable to understand Bhagavad Gita. As Prabhupada comments in his purport, unless you become acquainted with Krishna and Arjuna, who are the narrator and listener of Bhagavad Gita, you will not be able to grasp the true purport of Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, unless you understand Rupa Goswami's preeminent glories, then you will not be able to understand the glories of Bhakti Rasamrita. So thus, we have become acquainted with the par excellence and the most exalted position of Rupa Goswami. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai ho. Shri Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai ho. The nectar of devotion, morning class ki jai ho. Shri Shri Panch Tattva ki jai ho. Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai ho. Nidai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.